There we go. So welcome to Appy Hour, everyone. And today we're going to be talking about the best of both worlds, QuickBooks Desktop and apps in the cloud. And we were already having a little bit of a preview of the conversation that we get to be able to serve our clients in our fuzzy slippers.
We do. And our pajama pants.
Yep. So work remotely. And, in my experience is I get to be so much more efficient. And so for me, whenever I have somebody who wants me to come out and help them, I have to say, this is not my typical thing that I do. And so I have to understand, why would I go out there? And if it's a temporary thing that I know and they understand, convert them over into a hosted situation if they're using QuickBooks Desktop and we both agree upon that, then fine. But otherwise, I've just gotten to the point that I don't really leave. It's not efficient any longer, and we just don't have to. So this is a good conversation for those accountants that are with us that really want to stay remote and work efficiently.
Yeah, and a lot of, with this whole, with this whole coronavirus thing, a lot of people are being forced to work from home right now. And so it's even more important. It's actually, that's my alarm to tell me to come and talk to you, Liz.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
I'm here, yeah. But yeah, working remotely is fantastic. The first time that I ever had a need, realized I had a need to work remotely with a client was, back in probably like 2005. And I had a client that had 2 locations and we needed access to the same QuickBooks company, right? And so that was the first need. I actually had a laptop. This is way back before I knew about Right Networks, but we had a little laptop that sat in a closet by itself that hosted the QuickBooks company. And then people had to remote into it. And none of us could work at the same time because it was on this one computer, and that was the only way that we were able to do it. And so Right Networks is a beautiful thing because you can actually have a network in the cloud no matter where you are, which is amazing.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah, it totally does. So I just have to say, I have my little hat. I'll tell my story about my hat in a few minutes. Right,
okay,
Kevin?
so let's do our intros, and then you can tell your hat during your intros. You want to tell it?
Yeah, totally. So my name is Heather Satterley. I am a CPA and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor, automation expert. I have a firm in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, and I help people automate their processes and learn QuickBooks. I teach QuickBooks. I also have my tax hat on. I do have a bookkeeping and tax firm called Back Office Ally. So we're getting everybody's books ready. We're just about done with all of our year end. Woohoo! So now we're just churning out those tax returns. So, yep, so that's me. And so my hat, I have this beautiful green Red Sox hat that was actually a gift from our friends at Right Networks. So they had a party at Fenway Park at Account Techs in September. And and actually it's St. Patrick's Day, right? Coming up on Saturday. So it's perfect. It's like all of the stars aligned for me to wear my green Right Networks Red Sox hat. So thank you, Kevin, and all the friends at Right Networks for my...
I love it.
Plus, I'm an hour from Boston. So like I said, when the stars aligned, the stars aligned.
So, thanks for that intro, Heather. So I'm Liz Scott, and just like Heather, I do a lot of process automation and integration with apps. And so the majority of my clients, what they are looking for is to be able to have a lot of freedom and work in the cloud. And so it doesn't matter if they are desktop or QuickBooks Online, they want to be able to see their data. And so being able to be hosted, if they are desktop, they still want to be able to connect to apps, which is why today's conversation is really relevant and important. So with that, I want to say thank you to our Champaign sponsor, Right Networks, who is here with us today, and they are the leading cloud hosting provider for accounting professionals. And here today to represent Right Networks is Kevin Rosa. So Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Hey, everybody. Kevin Rosa here, Director of Sales for Right Networks. And pretty much grown up here. I've been here for 12 years. So I think I was like the 7th or 8th employee. So I've seen it all. So it's been a ton of fun. Love working with firms, and their small, medium business clients are great. And really we're here to talk about getting those desktop clients in an online collaborative environment and making it that much more easy and efficient to work on those guys, and bringing all the benefits of almost, the QBO SaaS-based model to the desktop product. So that's exactly what we do. So excited to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Fantastic. Yep. So there's lots to see and do. So the place that we're going to get started is exactly with our agenda, which is the best of both worlds. So we have those QuickBooks Desktop clients, and despite the reason that they are a user of QuickBooks Desktop, we need to still be able to, as accountants, work with them. And we need to still actually connect with their apps. So that's the conversation today. And the place to really start is by talking about all of the different desktop products that are out there. And so we have all these variety of products that are available for use. And so we've got our Pro and Premier, our contractors that are using, that's what I deal with a lot, that are in desktop. And so for me, whenever I'm working with these contractors and I put them in Premier, I want to make sure that they're in a place that I can help them. And so I train them in QuickBooks Desktop. They're using Right Networks and they're comfortable in it. And you're going to see why. It's a really, really comfortable work environment. If they're used to Windows, they're going to be like, oh, this looks like normal. And then also, we're also going to talk about too, if they are also Mac users, if there's a way for them to use Right Networks as Mac users. And then enterprise, there's all the different enterprise options. So no matter which desktop product that they're using, putting it in the cloud in a hosted environment is a really great solution, so that way you can both share it. And then Heather, this is a really interesting statistic, right?
It is. I mean, this is interesting because we've been, hearing so much about the push to QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Online. But if you look at the numbers, you can see that, QuickBooks Desktop is still very much alive and well. In fact, the revenue that was generated for the fiscal year 19 with Intuit for QuickBooks Desktop and related products actually surpassed the revenue for QuickBooks Online. So it's still going strong. And I was just saying to you, Liz, this morning that in the last 2 weeks, I've gotten 3 desktop clients that have come into my firm after a really a long spell where I haven't seen a lot of QuickBooks Desktop work coming in. I'm starting to see more enterprise clients coming in. I had a QuickBooks Premier client come in. So there is definitely, it's not going anywhere. And we want that freedom to be able to work in the cloud and be remote, but they also want that, they still want that functionality that's in QuickBooks Desktop. So.
Yep, I agree with you.
And it was interesting when we were looking at these numbers earlier too, Liz, that we've noticed that we can even see it on a quarter-to-quarter basis, that the numbers are increasing. Like if you look at the numbers from fiscal year 18 to fiscal year 19, those numbers are increasing. So, it's I mean, not a ton, but they're definitely increasing. So we're not seeing a decline. There's no decline here.
People are still using it. In fact, what I see is my entrepreneurs who have multiple entities, they want to continue to use desktop. And so for them, it makes sense to stay in something like enterprise, and they're going to stay with a hosted solution.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to be able to work with all of their different partners, and they go with Right Networks, and then they have their enterprise solution. And in that scenario, it doesn't matter how many different companies that they have. So that's the reason that they enjoy working with the desktop product.
Yeah. Right. And there's a lot of reasons that are coming in through the Q&A in the chat about, why, people that are selecting desktop over QuickBooks Online. All I can say is it's good to have choices, right? And saying that the right product is saying that one product is the right product for every single company is silly, right? Because there's so many different nuances in the way a company operates, their staffing, their reporting needs, that trying to put every single client into one particular product usually doesn't work out real well.
Yeah, was putting in chat that I still serve both, but I'm primarily QuickBooks Online. But there's those people like my construction clients that they still really want to have the flexibility of using the desktop product. And so, I'm never going to be one of those that says, I'm going to dictate to you what it is that I feel like you should use.
Right.
So I like it that we have some choices. I like it that we have
Agreed.
some freedom. And the thing that we do have to face, though, is when we're talking about the desktop product, what do we say? It's complicated.
It is complicated.
You go, okay, I want to enter into this relationship, but it's got some strings. So what do we do in order to make it a better relationship for everybody?
It's a communication problem, Liz. That's what it is. It's all communication. Isn't that like the root of all problems, right? You can't get the message across, and that's where Right Networks comes in, and the hosting, right? It gives you that. But
yep.
Yeah.
And you've got to have an environment where you can share the data with them. You can share what's happening. We know that's over with. And so if we know that's over with, then that just leaves us with two other options. And so if we think about what those two other options are, then we've got hosting.
Yep.
And then we've got the login solution. Right. And so if we know those are our two different options, let's look at what those two different options mean. So if we go over here and we look at our login solutions, I have to just go.
Which we're talking about remote access here too. Like some people know it as remote access, but basically what you're doing is you're taking over somebody's computer. So you're talking like PC anywhere, right? And some of the other ones, Liz, I haven't used one in so long. So I'm either QBO or Right Networks.
That's a good thing, Heather. That's a good thing.
What's that?
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
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 Yes, Kevin, it's a good thing.
It is a good thing. No, without a doubt.
So I have to share, hear my story. Of course, the slow thing, of course, that's a thing. But the middle one, the invasion of privacy. So that one's the one that actually affected our firm. So we had a staff member, don't worry, you're nameless here. But that staff member logged into one of our clients, and really, we had to have kind of a staff meeting because of what happened. We accountants are kind of shy people. And so we don't always share what's happening. And so this staff member did not say to the client, hey, I'm going to log in and take over your PC. Didn't happen. Fair. But what happened is they were logging in to do their work, and when they took over the PC, there was colorful content happening on the PC.
Oh.
And so, of course, there's a banner that comes across that says, your computer is being controlled by. So now you have both parties who are absolutely horrified. So their staff member got out of the computer, and she's like, ah! And so then the client was like, ah! And so everybody was completely and totally horrified and embarrassed and saying sorries. And it was just like, but that is actually their computer. Shouldn't they have the right to do whatever the heck they want to in their own personal home? So that actually was about the time that we said, we're doing half of our work hosted and half of our work log me in. Let's stop.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the end of whenever we were doing any type of login solutions. And so at that point, we decided that we would go to a hosted solution 100%.
Yeah.
And so the reason that we went over to it is now we didn't have to wait until our client's computer was on, because that's the other thing, is that you have to make sure that they've left their computer on, because we also will work, weekends and nights. And so that computer has to be left on, where in a hosted environment, it doesn't. And then also you've got all the apps that you need if you've got a hosted environment. And then you've got this collaboration happening. So everybody wins. No embarrassment.
The other thing that I would say, Liz, is that when you are using something like Log Me In, right, you're also at the mercy of whatever network the client has set up. And first of all, to maintain a network is super expensive, right?
Mhm.
You need to make sure that you have the right security protocols. You need to make sure that you have somebody that actually knows how to fix it when something stops working. And you also need to make sure that it's secure, right? That internal network is secure. So I think there's, in addition to, the privacy thing and everything else, you also are kind of at the mercy of how are they protecting their own data within their internal and, environment, right?
Well, and then that kind of brings in that whole conversation about a VPN.
Yeah.
So if you're using a VPN, then that's also another, that can slow things down.
Yeah, it really can. Yeah.
I just recently updated my VPN, and man, I tell you what, I thought there was a huge improvement to what was happening in VPNs, but it caused a big bog down. So I had to make some updates and some tweaks, but that can really slow down your environment where you don't need that in a hosted environment. Mm-hmm. It's encrypted, and
right.
I'm sure Kevin can tell us way more about that, but
definitely.
Yeah, totally. And I think, Heather, you touched on probably the most important part when I look at the LogMeIn stuff, like security, right? Like that database is still sitting there locally. It probably isn't being backed up. There's no disaster recovery, strategy in place, and it's just not secure. So, Liz, if I could, I'd like to thank that client looking at the Colorful stuff, because it got the rest of your guys' clients that come on board with hosting. So it's great. And no names.
I'm sure they would be like, no, don't talk to me about that ever again.
Tell them I say thanks. You can tell them I say thanks. But I think you guys touched on it. Yeah.
What blew my mind was I was talking to Liz about it. We were kind of sharing that. She was sharing that story with me yesterday. Or I don't know, it was this morning. Anyway, she was sharing that story with me, and I started laughing because I had a similar experience. I was like, what are the chances that both of our firms would have had a similar experience where...
I'm sure if we asked chat, I'm sure that there would be somebody else that has had that happen, because, it's personal computers.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
And we really aren't great about saying, we're going to do our work now, clients. And so, in theory, yes, it's part of this is how we do things, but,
Yeah.
You
got to knock on the door first.
You got to knock on the door. Their
team.
Well,
Michelle says that she had something similar too.
I know.
We're going to have to start a support group.
I'm thinking of a marketing strategy here. I think I'm thinking of a marketing strategy for 2020 in terms of getting folks off of LogMeIn type of features. So this is
yes,
right.
And we're just picking on that one. And so, in all fairness, it doesn't matter which one you're on. They're all you're logging onto somebody's personal computer. So moving on.
Yeah.
So whenever I moved over, guess what I was able to do? I was able to take my laptop, and the first conference that I was at, that I was able to, was I at Sleater? I think I was at SleaterCon, and I sat in the hallway, and I really think I kind of did this because I felt like I was so cool. I was like, I'm processing payroll in the hallway. And I just felt so cool because I was empowered to be able to go to a conference and not be behind.
Right.
I walked outside of the classroom, and I handled a situation. It was like an emergency situation where a client was like, something had happened with their payroll and they needed it addressed now. And I did not have to leave the entire class. I was able to have my laptop right there. And I didn't want to do it in the classroom because I didn't want everybody to see what was happening. But I walked outside, went into the hallway in a private little area, and it was like, man, I'm bad. I was like, so cool. And then I went back into the classroom, and I was like, does everybody see how cool I am? Like, do y'all see me?
I have superpowers. I can actually do my work from 2,000 miles away.
I know, just like this big geek horn hanging up here going. I have superpowers, you're right. I process payroll at a conference. I'm so cool. But,
you were ahead of your time.
Man.
Really were. Trailblazer.
Yeah, definitely.
Man. Well, okay, so talking about all the different apps, here's just a handful. And then, there's some new things that are happening with Kevin. Do you want to talk about some of the new tax options that are inside of Right Networks now?
Yeah, totally. So there's something I'll get into a little bit later where I talk about the deep integration between Intuit and Right Networks and the partnership and how close we've really gotten with them. But we recently just launched Lacert and Pro Series tax hosting that you can purchase via Intuit as you either, I think, upgrade your tax license or call in. You can put it on the cloud. And essentially, it's all powered by us. It's right in our infrastructure. And, you know, the tax, you guys obviously know tax. It's a different animal than QuickBooks. So did a lot of work with Intuit ahead of time to understand the update process, those tax tables, the state stuff. It really got much more complex. And we think we've really gotten an awesome offering down to where the fully managed aspect of it is really something firms benefit from, right? They don't have to run those updates every day or, I mean, they're pretty much every single night during tax season, those things are coming out. So we've automated that process with Intuit to make sure when you log in, it's up to date, it's ready to go, backed up for you, it's all safe, and you can get to it from anywhere. So we launched that, I think, back in October, and it's probably, you know, there's, I don't know how the number is, but a bunch of firms are already hosting, and it's going like gangbusters. People are loving it, and definitely a great solution. And then they're figuring out they can add on their QuickBooks clients underneath. They're integrated with their tax solutions, so really bringing desktop accounting software and tax into one place. And
Amazing.
The feedback's been like overwhelmingly positive. So it's been great.
Cool. Well, yeah, that's really nice. That's a good addition.
Totally.
So, okay. So this is like, I just put it in chat because it's just one of my favorite things. So I want to share my favorite features. So as a Right Networks user who's completely geeked out, yes, I know that my payroll moment shows how geeky I am, but I really was so just absolutely impressed with myself at that moment with my abilities to process payroll and solve things at the conference, which, you know, I've heard other people say that they've handled scenarios like at the beach or whatever. So whatever your experience is, you know, just being able to have a solution where you're on the go. That's the gist of this. But I want to share some of my favorite features and tell you how I use Right Networks. And then after that, then Kevin's going to take it away and he's going to do a demo. So let me share some of my things that I like. So with QuickBooks Desktop, one of the things that often happens is we know that our clients say to us that they've got files that they want to transfer to us. And so maybe it's a brand new client and we need to get their existing data file and we want to review it. So File Manager is a tool that's built inside of Right Networks. And so you can log onto their computer and you can pull off that data file securely. And no matter how large that data file is, that File Manager can actually export it. It can handle that size of the file, and then you upload it and it's hosted and it's in an environment that is actually designed for QuickBooks files. So the other thing that we do with Right Networks is we actually save all of our archived files. So year after year after year, one of the things that we do whenever we do 1099s is we make an archive file of the data file at the time of the 1099s creations. And so we just save those year after year after year. And so there's always these archives that exist for all of these client files. And even if it's a scenario where maybe you're not actually hosting a client inside of the Right Networks environment, but they are a QuickBooks Desktop user, we will actually take their data file and then we will still archive it inside of Right Networks. So that way it's in the place that's designed for QuickBooks data files. So that's another way that I use the Right Networks platform. Another thing that I do is you can see this is actually inside of my Right Networks. This is my mapped drive to Smart Vault. And so this is what it looks like. Whenever I log into my Smart Vault, I can actually, from Right Networks, I can see all of my Smart Vault folders. And so I have my mapped drive inside of Right Networks. So any files that I want to be able to use back and forth, I can see all my Excel files. If I'm doing things, I want to export something, I want to save it for later, I can see that mapped drive. I really enjoy that feature. This is also very cool. So right from inside of my Right Networks desktop, there's a little icon that I can click on, or I can go directly to the website, and then I can click on my portal as an accountant, and I can see my client file. So this is a particular client file, and then you can see all of the apps over here. And so apps you can install. So this looks a lot like QBOA. So you can come over here and you can say, these are the apps that I want to install for my client. And then now you can connect those for each of your clients for their QuickBooks Desktop accounts. So that's another one of my favorite features. Oops, I just clicked past one of my favorite features. Okay, and then here's one right here. So as an accounting firm, one of the things that I sometimes want to do is allow other team members to be able to access that file. And so again, I'm working inside of my desktop, or I could go right over inside of the Chrome browser and I could log into Right Networks directly. So either one works in this situation. But if I clicked on the icon inside of my hosted environment, it would pull up this screen and I could see this is my client. And then who has access? And in this scenario, there's 3 different people. I blanked them out for you, but this is a live data file. This would be the client name, and then this would be all 3 team members or 2 team members and the client that has access to this data file. And so if you needed to add somebody, you could come over here and say grant access. If you needed to revoke somebody, you could easily revoke access. Super easy to be able to come over here and control what's happening inside of this. Another thing that's something I like about Right Networks is, say that I wanted to be able to, this is a really good example of the perfect timing. We're at 2020, so this is a good time to come over and look at your QuickBooks Desktop licenses. So you can go over here and you can say, who's about to age out in a unsupported license? So I could go through my list of subscribed users and I could say, which versions do they either own or do they lease? And so with Right Networks, and Kevin's going to tell you more about this, but I just kind of want to give you some of a preview. But what you can do is you can either lease through Right Networks, or you can say, I've already purchased it, and so you can give them your license and key code, and so they'll put it in. And so you can put it over here, and they'll host that for you. And if you host it, then you would need to buy another copy of it every 3 years. Or you could say, if I lease it, then every year you can just say, all right, I'm ready to renew. So you have 2 different options over here, and it's easy to be able to see your licenses and how are they is it owned or leased. Another thing that you can do is also get 365 through Right Networks. So you can see right here, this is a Right Networks account that has 365 added on. And so this user for $15 a month has Office 365. And Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like you get 3 or 6 devices. And so it's not just inside of Right Networks, it's like your laptop, it's your desktop, it's 6 devices, right?
Yeah, so it's 5 devices, but close enough. But yeah, Right Networks becomes one of those 5 devices. So you can pop it on our environment, and then you have 4 other workstations you can load it on as well too. So it's pretty good value.
Cool. Yeah. So
Sorry, Liz, can I jump on just for a second? I have a question from Carol, and I just want to kind of clear this up for anybody else that might have the same question. So Carol's asking that, with Right Networks, are we transferring data from desktop versions from our clients and then back again? So are we taking the data, working on it, and then sending it back? How are we actually accessing the client's data when we're using Right Networks?
So the answer is it's truly hosted. So if you think about Right Networks as your server, it's living up here in the cloud. So what you do is you take that original data file that lives on somebody's PC and you go, I'm going to take this copy, and instead of it living on this PC, I'm going to put it up over here in the cloud, and now it lives here. And so every single time that you log on, which that's what we're going to see in the demo, but every single time that you log on, this is your new work environment, is in the cloud. It looks like it's on a desktop. It actually feels like you're on a desktop. Your clients actually don't even realize there's much of a difference. Mine don't. But it's actually in the cloud, which means everybody gets to collaborate. So it's truly desktop, but it's hosted.
You got it.
Awesome, thanks.
So thanks for that question. That was a really, really good question. So that was Carol. So thanks, Carol. I think that's my favorite features. Thanks for indulging me for a second. But I want to say, let's raise a green toast.
Got it.
All right, so I've got mine.
I've got mine too.
Got mine.
All
Do we
right.
pound these? We don't drink the whole thing, just a sip. We don't pound this, do we?
Their own.
If we pound it, we're all gonna burp, and nobody wants to hear it.
Fair enough.
My lime's in the way.
So pretty. My daughter decorated it for me.
This is usually what I drink at home too.
Champagne?
No, I'm kidding. The Midori or the green, whatever the green bottle is.
Midori?
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's very pretty. Okay, so Kevin, I'm so glad you're here. And I'm going to just say, take it away. I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to pass the presenter over to you. So if you want to go down there at the bottom and just start sharing.
Sure.
And then as we go over in chat, if you want to ask questions in chat, I'll help answer. And then we also have Kelly, that she's behind the scenes, and so she'll also help answer questions.
Cool. Can you guys see my screen, the kind of the desktop here?
Yes.
Awesome. And Liz, you probably could have kept going with the demo. I don't think I'm going to do as good a job as you did, but I really appreciate you highlighting those things and, you know, just kind of your favorite aspects of the service. Hearing someone that uses it every day. You know, obviously I've been here for a long time, but when it's part of someone's workflow and their process, it's just that much more beneficial to hear how you guys use it and the highlights and the things that you want to, you know, call out there. So it's awesome. But what I have here, guys, is really just a hosted desktop interface. I have logged in. I'll just minimize for 1 second so you can see that Right Networks basically becomes this little shortcut kind of desktop icon here. So you double click on this icon and it's remote desktop. If anyone's used it, it's been around for the last probably 15 years, built into PCs, and they update it regularly. And then you can also install it on a Mac as well too. So like Liz mentioned earlier, we have a huge base, probably like 39% of our users are actually Mac users that log into this hosted interface to access the desktop PC version of QuickBooks. So the PC version of QuickBooks has always been kind of superior to the Mac version. So Mac users are super psyched that they don't have to install Parallels or any other software to get into the hosted environment. So they just utilize that remote desktop connection, logs them right in. And then this is basically the interface. It's, you know, there's a backdrop, which isn't much to look at, but then on the left-hand side, you have kind of all of your applications that you have set up and deployed on this particular account. So this is a demo account that I've loaded up with a ton of different versions of QuickBooks. I have my Smart Vault here. There's like a PDF editor tool. You have your log off button, and then you have like help desk where you can interact directly with our support staff and chat with them if you run into any issues or have any questions about anything. And then my account is in here as well too, which I'll show after I show the environment. But those were the screenshots that Liz was showing where you really can manage your subscription with us, add users, do the access management stuff, and really kind of cool interface that lets you self-service and manage your subscription overall at an administrative level. So as you can tell, this looks like a regular desktop, which I think Heather or Liz said comfort. Like that's exactly what we're going for. We want this to look and feel just like they're accessing it locally. No big learning curve. It's the same desktop product that they're utilizing locally, which on almost every sales call we have here, they're like, well, is it the same version? Is it the same thing when I get up there? And it totally is. And whoever had the question about it syncing back and forth, great question, because you know, to grasp the concept, I think you have to understand exactly how Liz explained it is we're taking those files locally and we're putting them up in the cloud and storing them in our system so that it's almost like you're renting space from us, like a server in the cloud that is us powering your kind of whole collaboration ecosystem with your clients there. So if I was going to run through, here's QuickBooks. Everyone's seen QuickBooks, nothing new here. As you can tell when I operate, I know we're on like a Zoom call here, but the performance is, again, just like you're on your local system. Any average internet connection these days, guys, should be perfectly fine for utilizing us. There are folks, believe it or not, still on dial-up out there that try to get into our systems and satellite, but really any average internet connection And if any folks are interested and haven't tried our service before and are worried about their connection, we can actually send you a demo account without you kind of signing up, so you can still test the performance and make sure it runs good for you if you're in a spotty or rural area. And we are global as well too. I think I saw a question pop up about Canada quickly. We do support Canada, folks logging in from Canada, a ton of folks logging in from India and overseas. If you look at the heat map, it's literally across the entire globe we have folks accessing our system. So pretty cool. And then if you come in here, I'm just going to show, like, you know, on this particular account, there's some Office components added in. So if I wanted to, I could, you know, create a new worksheet in Excel or export basically a report here. And what it'll do is it will launch Excel within the hosted environment. So again, starting with QuickBooks is how most people get their foot in the door with us. And then there's a whole slew of third-party applications that they add on after. As Liz already called out, Microsoft Office is super popular. So you can either purchase 365 from us. There's certain Office 365 SKUs you can bring to our environment. And then there's also us adding particular Office components built into the packages, which I'll get into later a little bit here. But again, as you can see, operates just like a normal desktop. And down here, you're going to have kind of the taskbar for your hosted environment, right? So I have QuickBooks open, I have Excel open, but then I can minimize and get back to my desktop if I really need to here. So it basically lives in the tray. I'm kind of weird. I have my start menu on the right-hand side here, but it lives in the tray in the taskbar just as one of your applications that you have open. So you can easily go back and forth and kind of toggle within the environment there. The other thing I'm going to point out too, that Liz kind of touched on a little bit when she was showing the Smart Vault drive, the drive access, you have 2 drives for every username with Right Networks. So there's an H drive, which I highlighted here. That's more of like a My Documents or your personal drive to that user. So if you wanted to store things that no other users would have access to, but you want to have it backed up, you want to get it in the cloud, and you want to be able to access it from anywhere, you can pop it in that H drive. And then there's the I drive, which is really the shared drive or the client data directory drive. So in this particular instance, you know, in my test account here, I built out like client 2, client 3, client 4, client 5. So this gives you kind of an idea of the top level kind of parent access that a firm has. And then when they log in, you have the specific kind of child or children folders, which are the clients. So again, firms like the parent, and then the clients are individual folders below the parent organization. And when the client logs in, they can only see their own data, and they can only see their own data directory and have no idea of the other clients that are hosted on the system. And as Liz showed earlier, the Access Management tab allows you to pick and choose what staffers can log into each one of these data directories. So not every staffer has to see everybody. You can kind of make sure each staffer has access to every individual client that they need to work on type deal. So this particular one can see everybody. And then as you add out clients or add on a new client or onboard a new desktop client, Right Networks, you'll see a folder pop up right here that we create for you, which again sets all the drive and access points perfectly. And then you can manage what staffers can access that particular folder there. Everything on both of these 2 drives, guys, is backed up on a nightly basis and held for a rolling 90-day period. So we do snapshots every night of all the files stored within our systems and then hold those backups for a rolling 90 days. So at any point in time, if there's any questions about getting a file restored, or God forbid an employee or a client probably logged in and did something they shouldn't do in a file, you can call our Tier 1 support guys, and they literally, once they verify that it's you, can restore it right on the phone with you within a short period of time as well too. So there's, you know, backups are key, but how fast you can restore a backup is actually even more important than actually taking the actual backup to make sure you avoid downtimes and things of that nature. When I logged in here, essentially there are a few different packages that I'll walk you guys through, but this one's kind of a basic package with QuickBooks and a few other applications, and then you can go upstream and start accessing any other kind of third-party applications in our directory as well too. And then what I'll also show you guys, so that's kind of the hosted environment, the workspace aspect of Right Networks. Here is the essentially the My Account interface that Liz showed a little bit of earlier. And this is a tool that we give to firms to manage their subscriptions. For so many years, folks had to call in, probably like Liz and Heather in the past, had to call in and have us do stuff for them, like add clients or add applications, add licenses. And not that we didn't love doing that stuff, but we wanted to give you guys the ability to do it on your own. So that's kind of something we built out here, which is self-service portal, which allows you to really do anything you can think of with your subscription, right? You can create a new client org. Over here, I have a couple client organizations underneath kind of the main account. And then you can add users, whether it be staffers or clients. You can add licenses. So like Liz said, it's a good tool where you can kind of have a QuickBooks Desktop license inventory system where you can see everything that's loaded in there, know how many licenses you have. You can buy licenses right from this interface or lease licenses. We do support what's going to be 2018 and greater. So Right Network stays in line with Intuit in terms of supportable years of QuickBooks. So if somebody calls us and they have a 2018, they can bring that license on board and host that with us. And then when we're about to sunset 2018, they can buy or lease a license directly from us to be on the latest version and be able to stay in that version for the next following 3 years or so. I think that's pretty much it from the self-service portal interface here. Packages will show you how many seats you have available, and then you can assign them out to individual clients based off of what clients need. And really the makeup of a firm is going to have firm staff users running whatever packages they want, and then individual clients can run any packages they want to. So you can mix and match within organizations. Everybody doesn't have to be on the same package. Some folks would need access to third-party apps. Some folks won't. So pretty easy to kind of manage that from here. And then there's a billing tab where you can see, on a regular basis what your bill is going to be. Detailed invoices are in here. Accountants love to look at detailed invoices, right? So that's available. And then you have an events tab, which shows you who did what. If Liz made a change to my account, I can see it if I'm in her firm. And if I make a change at an admin level, she can see it too. So kind of a great tool that allows you, again, to manage your overall subscription with us. Liz, is there anything, or Heather, is there anything you think I missed on the demo that people might be interested in seeing?
I think you did a great job of showing where all the clients are. I think I like where you were showing all the different apps. So the package add-ons, yeah, no. Did you show the apps? I was answering questions, so.
Yeah, no problem. I didn't show oh, here you go, apps you can install. So depending on what I have, I don't know what this test user have.
Okay, so.
I have no apps, but if I did have apps, I would have a bunch of tiles like Liz showed earlier, which allows me to deploy like Microsoft Office components, your Bill.coms, Expensify, all that stuff too, to deploy it right onto a specific desktop there. So yeah.
And just to clarify, Kevin, when you're using those apps in the hosted environment, it's just like you had those apps installed locally on your computer. It's just that they're installed on the virtual server on Right Network server, right? That you're basically leasing. So I'm getting a lot of questions about what is, about around the actual hosting and kind of wrapping our brains around that. And basically what you're doing is you're renting space on the Right Network server, and you're relying on the, enterprise level security that Right Networks has to keep your data safe. And you're also relying on their team of engineers and IT specialists to make sure that all of the connectivity between all of your users and all of the different apps that are connected to your QuickBooks company are running smoothly. So, I mean, that's really what you're paying for when you're signing up for the Right Networks service, is that you're getting a whole managed network through Right Networks, and it's going to host all of your apps. So everything's kind of happening in that environment that you're leasing from Right Networks. Yeah. So it's fabulous. It's like having your own personal IT team.
Yeah, and it's, Heather, I think you hit it right on the head too. Like, it's enterprise class technology for like a fraction of the price, right? So clients and firms can store their stuff in these tier 4 carrier grade data centers that are SOC, million compliant and all that good stuff too. But for a company to do that on their own, it'd be astronomical cost. So just rent that from us and allow us to manage it. And listen, accounting firms, they want to focus on their clients. They don't want to focus on technology or have to deal with tech issues. Like, we're here to help you guys focus on your clients and host all that tech stuff for you, so you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. And for some of the smaller firms, the firms that are one person all the way up to, maybe even 25 staff people, trying to fund or keep a network environment clean and safe and working well is super duper expensive.
Well, my thing is I think that what I have found at this point is businesses now expect you to collaborate with them.
Yeah.
And so if they are desktop users, then how are you going to collaborate? And this is the way. And so, okay, so there's a couple of questions in here that I want to say live. So Randy and I think there's another person who has asked the same question. So let me go ahead and say these two live, are asking about how you work inside of QuickBooks and how that collaboration works. So there's users. And so like I was sharing earlier that the firm has multiple users in it, and then we would also have a client user. And so the client user can go in and they could have, there could be 5 client users. And so those client users could all be working at one time. Then we could have our staff users in there. And so all of these people could all be entering data all at one time, as long as there's, enough licenses to support all of that activity. But there's not going to be any, I think that one of the questions that Randy was asking is do you have to pause and wait for everybody to work in order for it to update? And the answer is no. It's going to, everybody's user is working, and that's the beauty of working in a hosted environment.
Yep, totally. It's almost like I tell people, just think of this as like a local server that we're just hosting for you in the cloud, and it's going to operate in the exact same way. Everyone can work and do their own individual stuff simultaneously, and then you'll see it just live update for the other users when you kind of poke around the file. But yeah, you're totally right.
Just like whenever we're working in QuickBooks Online, it doesn't say, hey, you can't work. It's not your turn.
Yeah.
So same concept, except for it's just desktop.
Right.
And then Roz is asking about CData, and yes, it works. And it's one of the supported apps. So I guess we need to maybe move on to some apps and talk about those, because we have people asking about costs and apps, and yeah, we have interest.
So I should give it back to you, right, Liz?
Sure, either way. Do you want to do that?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I would be happy.
Do you want me to go ahead and launch the poll?
Yes, please.
Okie dokie. So I am going to launch the poll. If you would like Kevin from Right Networks to reach out to you with more information, please go ahead and indicate that in the poll, and I will forward your email address over to Kevin after today's webinar. Yeah, so I'm going to leave that up for just about a minute, maybe a little minute and a half, and let you guys vote in that. We have a lot of interest, so that's fantastic. And while you get things queued up.
Fantastic.
And Kevin, what is the best way? Are we going to be going over pricing today, or where's the best place for? We are. Liz,
yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is a slide coming up that
fantastic.
I can walk through. It's packages.
In fact, Kevin, I kind of queued it up almost next, because we were having so many questions about it that I thought, well, just kind of get there. So we were getting questions about price and app connectivity. So
love it.
Heather, you tell me when you're ready for me. And
all right, I'm going to count everybody down. So this is your last chance to vote, and I will forward your email on to Kevin later today. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And we caught a couple more there, so that's fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and end that polling. And all right. So we're good to go.
Great. Okay. All right. So how do you pay for it? So that's one thing that do we want to address the flexibility there, Kevin?
Yeah, I can do it real quick. So in terms of paying for the service, I think there's 2 types of firms. There's there's a lot of different types of firms, but in this aspect, there's firms that want to manage the billing for their clients. So where we, in turn would bill, let's say Liz's firm for her staff users and all her client users. And then she wants to turn around and bill the clients and really bundle in any other services that she does for them. So it becomes kind of a value add of what Liz does for her clients, and we become part of her offer, empowering, what she offers out there. Or some firms say, I don't want to deal with the billing. I'll bill my clients for the accounting services I do for them. I want you to bill them directly for hosting. And in that setup too, we can bill the firm for just their staffers, and then we can individually bill each client below them so that they can subscribe directly with us and put payment information on file. And then they can kind of manage their own subscription underneath the accountant, while the accountant still has access to their data.
Yep. And, just because sometimes we get asked this question as, Heather and I, what do we do? And the answer is, we do both. Sometimes it makes sense for us to pass that billing on to our clients directly, and sometimes it makes sense for us to wholesale it. Yeah. So
I think it depends on the client, right, Liz? Typically, that's kind of usually what we hear.
Absolutely. And so speaking of apps, the reason I wanted to go ahead and get here is I wanted to be able to say, look at all those. So if you have a question about, does your app connect, I'm going to go ahead and say probably.
There's
probably
a good chance.
It does.
Yeah.
So there was a couple of apps that was in question, CData, and I'm sorry, I don't remember what the other one was, but there was another one in chat, Heather.
Let's see. There was CData, Amazon Web Services.
I don't know if
I would have to understand more how they're using it, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Parts of that. They wanted to connect, like why?
I'm not seeing any other apps mentioned specifically in the chat.
Okay, all right.
And this application directory that Liz kind of popped up here for you guys, that was built off of customer demand. So when we first started, we started with QuickBooks, and then as people asked for other stuff, we tried to really set up relationships with market leaders in every specific kind of industry solution that folks would be looking for, and really built out this application directory based off of customer demand. So it's the other apps that everyone else is using.
Well, and I want to make sure that we have some time to show one of these scenarios, because what we have, like I was sharing before, is we have some contractors, construction workers that are home builders that are paying their contractors inside of QuickBooks Desktop that's hosted inside of Right Networks with PrintBoss. And so that's an app that's hosted in Right Networks, and that's a really cool scenario that if we have some time, I'd love to show you. So let's look at some pricing too. So Kevin, you want to speak to this one?
Yeah, for sure. So starting from left to right here, there's 3 separate packages. So we tried to standardize it in the past. I don't know, Liz, if you remember, but we used to bill for each individual app, like $5 here, $10 here for this app. And it became like a laundry list on the invoices. So we wanted to standardize with 3 separate packages. The one on the right real quick is just the QuickBooks Desktop Cloud. That's primarily just hosting QuickBooks Desktop with us. Everything we've talked about here except for apps, right? So 24/7 support, backups, security, anytime, anywhere access, and then you get 5 gigabytes of kind of total storage there. The second one upstream would be the Business Cloud package. I would say most firm staff users are on Business Cloud or App Cloud, and 50% of clients are on the QuickBooks Desktop Cloud. The Business Cloud comes with Microsoft Excel. So like I showed in the demo, you can export right to Excel within Right Networks. And then it has a lot of really popular third-party applications. So you have your Bill.com is in that package, Expensify, Tally, Avalara. So we try to focus on the ones that people use the most popular ones that aren't too much of a heavy lift for us, and put them in the Business Cloud package. And then the third one up is Application Cloud. And that includes everything from the first 2, and then full Microsoft Office suite is built into there. So you got Outlook, PowerPoint, Access, whatever you're looking for within that package, and then access to that whole application directory that Liz just showed on that other slide. So as long as folks have subscriptions to that software, you can deploy as many of those as you want on one desktop in the Application Cloud package. And like I said before, guys, you can mix and match these packages within organizations, within clients, within staffers. So super flexible in that aspect. And if somebody signs up for one package, they can upgrade or downgrade if they need to. We're super flexible in terms of working with us. It's all month to month. There's no long-term contracts. There's no minimums. And we have a lot of one users, sole proprietors, all the way up to top 10 firms that use us for thousands of clients. So really flexible in that aspect.
That's great. Okay, so I'm going to switch over here and I'm going to say definitely security is you're taking care of whenever you're using Right Networks because you're putting yourself in the cloud. And then I'm also going to say as far as questions. So this is a really nice time to be able to work through some of the Q&A. And while we're doing that, I also want to say, I want to show this scenario with the app of the PrintBoss that's inside of the hosted environment. So don't leave. This isn't just a, hey, split at this point. This is a really good spot to ask any questions. So with that said, do you see any questions in the chat that you want to answer? I know one of them was the Canada question and you answered that one.
Yeah, let me, I'll look here.
And then we definitely, the question, you know, some people always want to know is how do you print whenever you're inside of Right Networks?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a third-party printer driver that gets installed the first time you get set up with us. And it's usually about 20 seconds, 25 seconds to install it locally. And then what it works is a middleman in between the hosted environment and your local printer. So you can send a printer to your, send a print job to your local default printer or have it prompt you for any network printer connected to that machine. So similar to printing locally, you can print to any printer that's connected network or directly to that machine when you're logging in.
And then can you have multiple versions of desktop or multiple versions of QuickBooks on one desktop?
Totally, yeah. So a lot of staffers are going to need multiple versions because it's not a perfect world and clients are not all in the same year or same version, right? So when you log in, you can have Enterprise, Pro, Premier, all different years going in there, and then you'll tunnel into the specific version you want to get into that client that's in that year. So that's totally supported as well. Yeah, for sure.
And then I'll tag onto that you can work in the accountant version no matter what version that is that they're using.
Right.
Correct.
So,
clients can be in Pro and then the firm can be in QuickBooks Premier Account for sure.
And then what about, can I email out of the hosted environment?
Yeah, so you, in that case, you can either configure QuickBooks to email out to like, I believe, a POP service, or you can select the application cloud package and deploy Outlook within our system. So then you have Outlook sitting there right with your QuickBooks application to email right out of the hosted environment.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show this scenario so that way people can kind of see what does it look like if I wanted to write a check inside of QuickBooks Desktop and then print it. So let me kind of show a real working example of using Right Networks and wanting to print a check. So if I wanted to come over here and say, you know, Heather and I always go, what's the cool thing that we did? Well, I want to show you PrintBoss and inside of Right Networks. So here's my hosted desktop. And if I look at my PrintBoss is living inside of my hosted desktop. And then if I go inside of my client file, I can see my client can have my construction clients, you know, they sometimes have gajillion bank accounts. So here's all their gajillion bank accounts. They can write a check like normal. And then they can come over here and they can say, all right, I want to, with all of my different bank accounts, I want to be able to use PrintBoss to then print. So whenever you say, which printer do you want to use? You say, I want to use PrintBoss. And then what happens is it says, okay, your local printer, it then picks that up because it knows that now it's going to spit out that check. And then you just say, yep, my check number that was in QuickBooks matches my check number that PrintBoss says. And then really and truly, there's this mapping that happens that you tell your PrintBoss, here's all my various bank accounts. And you can see I can have hundreds of banks connected with all my various formatting of all of my various different accounts. And then I can have all my routing and my checking account information there. And then once I print that check, it's going to put all of the details on there. So I don't have to have all my check stock with all of the routing and account numbers sitting inside of a drawer. So here's the thing. I know that we don't want to have clients printing checks, but the reality is that sometimes we have these construction clients that still are paying their contractors with checks. And we want to give them an option that is both secure and practical, that they don't have umpteen blank check stocks sitting inside of a drawer. So instead, here's a solution where they can use an app, have it hosted, and it's taking both environments, utilizing them, and making a safe, secure environment where all of their checks are printed inside of Right Networks and all of their data is stored inside of Right Networks. So I think that's a really good example of how construction clients are using it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So those people who are ready for Right Networks and want to sign up, we have an exciting 20% off if they want to sign up before the end of March.
Awesome. Yeah. So feel free to contact us. And I think my contact info is on either the next slide, but even if you go to rightnetworks.com and reach out to the sales team and mention the happy hour, 20% off for any net new customers till the end of the month.
Fantastic.
Do you want to put that in Slack? Because I'm not sure that I have that right here, Kevin. I might have oopsed. Yeah, if you'll throw that.
Not Slack, right?
I mean, not Slack.
I'm confused.
No, like what Slack? Where's Slack?
Chat, not Slack.
Yeah. So I also want to I'm having a couple questions too about like the difference between the QuickBooks licensing and the bring your own license. Really what you're paying for with Right Networks is the environment, like the hosting environment. So it doesn't matter if you're using QuickBooks Pro or using QuickBooks Enterprise, right? You're just paying for the per user cost of each user that's going to be using the Right Networks environment, correct?
Yeah, you got it, Heather. So all bring your own license customers that bring a license onto us are the same hosted fees, same package fees associated with Pro, Premier, or Enterprise. And again, if they don't have a license, then they can lease one or buy one from us. But the hosting packages that I showed before, the version of QuickBooks is not going to change the price for any of those.
Right, unless you're leasing, and then you pay appropriate cost versus Pro or Enterprise.
You got it. Yep.
Per user.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Thanks.
Awesome.
Okay, so Heather, you want to talk about what's coming up?
Yeah, I do. So please do visit our beautiful new website at thehappyhour.com or qbhappyhour.com. There you can view all of our recorded episodes. So we have a lot of episodes now. So if you need a little break during tax season, feel free to pop in and watch one of our episodes. We've got some great apps that we've covered on the show. You can also get the drink recipes. So if something looked yummy to you and you want to make it yourself, you can do that. And we also have a blog. So we have lots of great content on our blog about best practices when using technology and also about the apps that have been highlighted on Appy Hour. So, or you can just send us a message. Love to hear from you. So we're getting lots of messages, which is really fun. We love when we have people reach out to us. Please don't forget to visit Right Networks website to learn more. Feel free to reach out to Kevin, and if you responded yes in our poll, I will be sending your information off to Kevin later today. We also have a Facebook group called the Appy Hour Lounge, so make sure you join that. We actually are different than a lot of the QuickBooks Facebook groups. We allow our app friends in. So there you'll be able to, reach out to, vendors that have been on the show. You can reach out to anybody in there that you have a question. We'd love to see you there. And then make sure that you register for Zoom. So if you're joining us today via Facebook Live, thank you for joining us. But you're going to want to come into our Zoom room, because our Zoom room is where you're going to be able to see the chat and the questions and answers that are happening right here in Zoom. So you can register on our website, or you can, Liz, could you pop that into Facebook Live where they can register? I think I put it in there a little bit earlier as well. So if you're watching, you can see the link right in the comments.
Sure.
And then next in 2 weeks, on March 24th, we're going to have Commerce Sync on our show. We're going to be talking about how can you import Clover daily sales summaries into QuickBooks Online. Also keep in mind that Commerce Sync is one of the apps that's on the Right Networks hosted site. So if you're using QuickBooks Desktop, that's an option for you as well, right through Right Network. So that's exciting. We also have a great lineup up through the end of June. We have Commerce Sync. We have an exciting episode on April 28th. So it's our first episode after the end of tax season. ADP has a very special exclusive announcement. It's only going to be announced, or it's going to be announced first on Appy Hour, so you don't want to miss that. And then we're going to have Vic AI in May, and we're also going to have a deep dive with Matthew Fulton, one of our favorite people. He's going to come on and do a deep dive and show us ADP Accountant Connect and the General Ledger feature. And then we're going to have a really cool Practice Ignition panel discussion in June. So you want to make sure that you register. We do send out a newsletter and reminders to let you know what's coming up. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank you, Kevin. This was amazing.
Yeah, thank you. So much fun. I appreciate you guys inviting us on here.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And thank you for my awesome hat.
No, thank you for supporting the Red Sox. We appreciate it.
I just noticed. I said that earlier, and I just noticed that you have the Red Sox picture right behind your shoulder.
Shameless plug I put out there.
Another great informative episode. Thanks for everybody for joining us.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And we'll see you guys in just a couple of weeks. Have a great day. And remember to, celebrate next week after we finish that first tax deadline next week for our corporate returns.
Woohoo. Woohoo.
This is like tax. No.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.